Welcome back to the Hot Seat with Anna. And today I have a super special guest for you. Her name is Brooke Birkey. If you don't know Brooke and you live in Florida, shame on you because everyone does, especially if you are a lawyer. Brooke is the founder and the owner of a company called Level Up. And Level Up works with law firms, helping them throughout their client journey, from client intake, making sure that the conversion is high, throughout client satisfaction, client journey, client conversion, client attrition. Also, Brooke's company trains staff of law firms, which leads to happier staff and higher staff retention. So she has a very unique concept. I know that Brooke worked for law firms for a very, 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 very long time and held all of the possible positions in a law firm. So she's an expert in the field. And today I'll be grilling Brooke on client intake in general. So it doesn't need to be law firms. We all suffer and struggle through poor conversion rates. And also client journey, how to make it better. Welcome, Brooke.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here in the hot seat.
Great. So let's be blunt and start right away. How
Okay.
much revenue do you think does it an average business lose every month because the first conversation with a lead goes wrong? So someone picks up the phone, the lead is on the phone, is potentially interested, and then we lose it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it depends on your average case value. So if you really want to get under the hood with this, look at your average case value and then think about a 20 to 30% difference. So that's what we tend to see when we train is a 20 to 30% increase in conversion. That's for PI. Consultative sales is a little different. But whatever your ACV is times 20 or 30%, that's what you stand to lose every single month.
Wow, that doesn't sound good. And I
No.
think some law firm owners, we work with lawyers as well. A lot of our clients are law firms. And some business owners say our sales or intake process work just fine. I think we're fine. So when you hear that, what problems do you usually find hiding underneath that statement once you join and see how it works?
Well, it's just a lack of appropriate training. So you have somebody who can functionally do the job that they're picking up the phone and they're saying, the name of the law firm, they know how to qualify a case, they can sign up the case, maybe even, but they don't have any hospitality. Their tonality is terrible. The engagement is bad. They're not earning trust. The qualification is long and lengthy and kind of going in circles rather than just being quick and efficient. And then there's generally almost no sales techniques. So no pre-selling, no letting the caller know that we want their business, no value proposition, no going for that single call, sign up, and then they just kind of throw away the lead, say, oh, okay, you don't want to sign up right now, next. And so there's a lot that goes into it, and all of it requires sales training.
Thank you. I also noticed with law firms, many founders or owners invest heavily in marketing. You see great billboards, online ads, their network to generate leads. But then they hand the new leads to the least trained person on the team to handle. Why do you think they do that?
I think the culture is starting to catch up where people are paying equal attention to intake and marketing, although it's still a little lopsided. I think that marketing is more of a known quantity, so sometimes it feels a little bit more comfortable. It's a little bit of a rat race. There's some competition in there, maybe even a little bit of ego, and so it has kind of a bad reputation. You ask people what they think about sales, they think about used car salesmen, et cetera. And so I think it's just a little bit less accessible and more uncomfortable.
Hmm. You worked, as I already mentioned, you worked almost every role in the funnel. So you held so many different positions working for law firms.
Mm-hmm.
What common intake or sales mistake do teams refuse to admit that they make?
Hmm. Well, the whole thing about how this is how we do it and this is how we've always done it is probably the most destructive attitude, is to kind of go into it and say, well, we're doing okay. I do it this way, and I'm doing just fine, right? And you have to kind of approach that in a sensitive way. Nobody likes for somebody from the outside to come in and say you're doing it wrong, right? And so it's really to show the benefit of doing it in a different way. Yes, tell me about how you do it, and let me tell you how you can improve that. So that's one, but a second one is probably just a lack of a script. So if your intake specialist doesn't know where they're supposed to go, then they're not going to get there, right?
Mhm.
And so they need a roadmap and a script at the very least. If anyone who's out there listening, your intake specialist doesn't have a script, start there. Email me. I'll give you some tips on how to create it. But that is essential.
Hmm, interesting. Yeah, actually, we created scripts for our sales team a couple of years ago. It made a huge, huge difference on our conversion rates. So I can see why you would say that. Many owners still cringe at mixing empathy with sales. So why is emotional intelligence still treated like a fluff instead of a revenue skill? I know there are a lot of research studies that show that emotional intelligence is essential in sales.
Mhm. Mhm.
So why do you think that there is still this cringe-worthy, element of sales where people kind of disregard it as a non-essential?
I've spent some time thinking about this. There's two versions of empathy. There's the version of empathy that's kind of pop culture, which means just let somebody do whatever they want because who are you to say that something's not right, right? And so that's one version of empathy.
Mhm.
That's not really the definition of empathy. Empathy means to just be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand where they're coming from. And so we take the more psychological approach and say that empathy and boundaries are two sides of the same coin. If you take it from an intake perspective, empathy, unedited, is just letting someone run away with the conversation, not interrupting, not guiding, not really taking control or authority. So that's too much empathy because they feel bad. Boundaries is leading and guiding the conversation, putting a boundary in place if you're going all the way over here in the conversation and it has nothing to do with your car accident. We call those therapy clients, or ramblers, or pick your collar type. And so empathy and boundaries need to exist together, and that's the more appropriate, I think, explanation of what empathy means. Not just this kind of squishy, feely
Mhm.
goody thing, but it's an actual tool.
Mhm. Thanks. So a client calls you in, hires you. You come in, start reviewing things. What is the fastest warning sign showing a sales or intake team are quietly bleeding opportunities?
Well, I review a call ahead of time. So that's something that helps me create a diagnostic right away. And it usually follows the same pattern, although different applications. The person doesn't build a connection first and they go straight for the solution. They don't add value to the solution before introducing price or process. And there's no sales technique in there. They just don't know the sales technique to use, right? And so I would say that although there's different iterations of this, every call that I review for a potential client has some of those elements in place.
Mhm. Thank you. And speaking of opportunity cost always sounds very theoretical. Can you walk us through a real example of how one missed lead, keeps costing a business long term?
Absolutely. I mean, just if you're talking about intake, then just multiply that by 12. And if you let's say your average case value is $10,000, just multiply that by 12. That's your opportunity cost. It's really straightforward. In case management, it's harder to spot because it's more process oriented. So let's say your case manager misses opportunities over and over to earn the person's trust, to earn their respect, to solve their problems in a timely manner, to communicate with them and with techniques that are really efficacious. That person might go to someone else. And they might not even be able to say and pinpoint, they might say I wasn't communicated with enough, or whatever. But it's a pattern that was established over time. So that's opportunity cost too, not just the value of the case, which you now lost, but the value of that paralegal or that case manager's time.
Mhm.
Everything that went into launching that case, that's opportunity cost. So it's exponentially more expensive when you're missing out on these vaguer, harder to define, process oriented ways
Mhm.
that money is slipping through the cracks.
Interesting. Yeah, I was thinking about these questions yesterday, and I thought for my company, every new client, it's not just a client, but every client introduces on average 7 new clients. So for
Mhm.
me to lose a lead, I consider it as losing 8 potential clients, not just one.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you walked into a business or a law firm tomorrow and the owner gave you full authority for a month, what intake or sales rule would you kill first?
Oh, just a month. So I can do a lot in a month. First, I would address any attitudinal issues around change and things like that. So to just kind of establish a platform where organizational change can take place. Because if you don't do that, then you're fighting the organizational change along the way. And then the first 4 weeks of my training are all about connection, and so that's where I would start, because it's you really can't skip around. Like I can't take week 1 of my training, week 3, and then week 7, they all build on each other. So I would take the attitudinal first, and then I would start to lay that foundation.
You kind of touched base on it already. Scripts are important, enforcing standards are important, but where do you think law firms and businesses in general lose more money? On weak scripts and systems, or leaders who fail to coach and enforce standards?
Oh, that's a really good question. Depends on how big you are. So if it's a smaller firm, then I would say systems and processes. But if it's a larger firm where your managers have more influence over more sections, then I would say management probably. Because when you feed into management, then you get those systems and processes correct, right? And if they're doing their job, then it's affecting more volume in your business.
So having said that, do you feel that leaders need training too, so that they can coach and enforce standards actually?
100%. Yeah, we actually have a training program for leaders.
Mm.
And again, it's all about emotional intelligence. So it's understanding people's learning style, how to motivate them. Communication theory is huge. There's so much about communication that we just don't learn growing up in our families, no matter how great they are, unless they're trained in it, right? And so there's a lot of ways to communicate with staff that are wrong, that end up doing damage. And so, and also, setting boundaries and expectations and accountability for staff members. It's not an easy job and it requires training.
Thank you. Final gut check. When a business refuses to fix intake or sales, what does that reveal about how seriously they treat growth? Because many people talk about, I want to scale, I want to grow, and
Yeah.
then they invest in certain areas, but sometimes they hire specialist experts like yourself, you come in, you give them all the advice they need, but they kind of refuse to accept it or don't follow through on implementation. So what do you think it says about the desire to grow or the commitment to growth?
You know what? And I think that one of the biggest reasons why businesses don't grow is because of fear and fear of losing control. So when you have a business and it's still small enough for everything to be under your thumb, there's a feeling of control there that's hard to let go of, right? Once you start growing and you have other things and the business is taking a shape that's kind of outside your own image, then becomes its own thing. That's a scary thing. And so I think that that's one of the top reasons why people don't allow their businesses to grow. You talk about you want growth, but when it really comes time to let go and let the business grow, that's very scary, and can cause a lot of anxiety.
Well, thank you. I actually experienced it myself. For many years, my growth was stalling because I'm a perfectionist. It was difficult for me to hire someone senior to manage operations, but me managing both kind of the strategic elements and client side and operations meant I was spread too thinly, and we just couldn't scale. So I had to decide whether to stay relatively small or be able to scale. It was very, very difficult transition actually, emotionally for me, because I felt
Absolutely.
like I don't control my brand anymore. It could affect my reputation. So you do feel that it's kind of out of your control.
Anyone who's a business owner has had to go through that transition.
Well, thanks. Thanks for your honest answers. I have a couple of additional questions for you that are not business related.
Okay.
Would you rather encounter a snake or a shark?
A shark.
Why?
Because I think sharks are cool. Like I would kind of like to encounter a shark.
Well, a dangerous like white tip shark, or are we talking about like whale shark, something peaceful?
Yeah, I mean, like I don't want to die or be in danger, but if I could do it in a cage or something, like I would love to see a shark. I think that would be cool.
Cool. What is your least favorite color and why?
Oh, least favorite color.
Uh-huh.
Probably like that pukey green, you know? Yeah.
Why do you dislike? Is there a story behind it, or you just kind of visually dislike the color?
Yeah, I'm a bright color person. I like yellow a lot and pink and blue and green. I'm a bright color person. But
Do you have a country you'd like to visit that's on your bucket list?
oh, all of them. All of them, yes. The next one I'd like to visit, and I'm working toward this trip, is I'd like to go on an art tour in Italy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Artwork. Do you
Yeah.
have any particular? I need to connect you with my mom. She's an artist, and my sister lives in Italy, and my mom actually exhibits in Italy. So
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
maybe we can make an interesting connection there. Oh, awesome. And then if you had to adopt a hamster or an iguana, what would you do? What would you choose?
Oh, do I have to choose? Neither. No. Yeah.
Well, it comes, let's say, I don't know, your husband says it's either or. That's what he
Oh,
comes with. So
um,
what would you
do
rather, hamster or iguana?
do
Hamsters
iguanas
are
bite?
fluffy. Huh?
Yeah. Do iguanas bite?
Oh no, they have they scratch mostly, but they don't bite. No,
Okay, iguana.
hamsters do. Hamsters
Yeah.
do. Yeah, iguana.
Yeah.
Okay, but hamster's smaller. You can keep it contained in a smaller cage.
I know. It's just so boring. It's a boring pet, I think.
All right. And can you tell me about your favorite hobby? What do you do outside work? I know you work a lot. I see you all over the internet. I know a lot of lawyers who work with you and love you. What do you do besides working?
Oh my goodness, I have a lot of activities that I do. So I'm a big salsa dancer, Latin dancing. I do gymnastics classes, so I'm getting working on my tumbling. I like to surf whenever I can.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I'm big into activities and um, yeah, being outside. I like to be outside.
Wow, who would have thought Brooke Birkey is so exciting? Thanks so much for being here. Well, everyone knows you're very knowledgeable and competent, of course, but I didn't know you have such an exciting side to you. So
Well,
much
thank you.
for joining us today. It was a pleasure to quick interview you, to grill you. You passed in a very dignified way. And we will share your details on YouTube, on LinkedIn, so people can reach out to you if they have any follow-up questions, just want to connect, want to explore maybe working with you, partnering up with you, interviewing you for more podcasts. Thanks so much, Brooke.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.